Good evening, everybody, and welcome into New England Sports Weekly. As always, I am your host, Sean Metcalf, and I am glad that you've decided to join me this evening. And for some reason, this has become a thing on the podcast that all of a sudden I have become Robin Williams from Good Morning Vietnam. Good morning, Vietnam. So apparently I am, because apparently the way I've opened up the show, like the last 5 weeks, that's been pointed out to me, has been in that same tone. And so apparently we're going to make this a thing. It's unofficially a thing now. So moving forward, I guess that's going to be the catchphrase of the show, the catch of the show, the hook of the show. But nonetheless, I hope everybody's doing well, and I hope you all out there are having a good Wednesday evening. If you're listening to the pod or the live stream, and if you listen to the podcast on tomorrow morning, whenever you are, the rest of this weekend, I hope that you're also having a grand old time out there. And especially here, if you're here in New England, it has snowed today. So it's the first one of the year. So that can go take a hike because I don't want to go shovel any of it. I mean, it pretty much melted away. It was more than I thought, but it wasn't a crap ton like we're going to get later on here in the year. But nonetheless, it is a great evening here. And it's bye week. It was the bye week for the Patriots last weekend, so there wasn't a lot going on in the Patriots realm of things, although it was a pretty damn good weekend of football for the rest of the NFL. And if you bet on that Vikings and Bills game like I told you last weekend, you won some good cash. Trust me, I was sweat my ass off on that one because trust me, that one came so close to down to the wire there. After the Bills threw that interception, well, not through the interception, but after they were forced to get that field goal, and it was 27-17 after the Bills didn't get that last touchdown there. I was like, okay, all right, the Vikings have a chance there because I put down $20, parlayed it. I had plus 1,100 on the odds. So pretty good odds there if I won. And I hit my Justin Jefferson touchdown. I hit my Jefferson and Diggs. I think Jefferson was plus 79 yards receiving and Diggs was plus 74. They both blew past that. So I was golden on all of the small parts of the parlay. I just took the Vikings in a classic money line. I didn't even put the over on that or the under. So I just needed a Vikings win. And of course, it was a double dip for me because I have Justin Jefferson in my big time keeper league. And he was going off all day, and it looked as though he was going to get in for that touchdown to start the game. I mean, to end the game, I should say. And of course, he got ruled down. I'm like, okay, no, they should get it. And of course, Minnesota couldn't get a touchdown to save their life when they were, half a foot from the goal line. They got stuffed. And I was like, oh, boy, flush down another one down the tube. And then, of course, we all know what kind of happened in overtime. I won't go we all know what happened to put them into overtime when Buffalo somehow Josh Allen fumbled the handoff. And as soon as that happened, I went from being probably 5 minutes before being so happy because, okay, but they're going to win. I'm going to get my parlay. I'm going to get my bet to, oh my God, they blew this, so pissed off. And then in that the end of that 5 minute span being like, oh, okay, Minnesota's up. They just have to stop. And of course, they couldn't get a defensive stop with 37 seconds left. Luckily, though, the Bills were held to a field goal. And then we know the Vikings got a field goal in overtime and got the interception to Allen. So that was a very, very good game. And there was all kinds of good games across the board. He had the Cowboys and Packers game was another exciting one. So it was for a weekend that I thought wasn't going to be the best as far as just like a bye week of watching, actually turned out to be very, very entertaining. And if you put a little bit of cash flow like I did down, then it was a good weekend for you. And it looks as though it's going to be another good one here. And of course, we have the New England Patriots to talk about as they are coming off the bye to face the New York Jets. So without further ado, we will get into our out of the box segment here to start the show. And of course, as we just mentioned, the Patriots are coming off their bye. They are 5-4 and getting ready to host the New York Jets this weekend at 1:00 after they have already taken game one of the two game set this season. They beat the Jets down in New York soundly, at least as far as defensively. Offensively, they still needed a lot to go in the right direction there. As we all remember, that's where basically Zach Wilson melted down, and the Patriots took that 26-17 win over the Jets. It really wasn't as close as it ended up being, but nonetheless, it'll be a tough task because remember the Jets are 6-4 at this. Well, 6-3. My apologies, 6-3 at this point in time. They had the bye last week as well, so they are no pushover. But still, it's Zach Wilson, so we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But the Patriots will get ready to face them down in Gillette. And pretty much everybody for the New England Patriots is back out and healthy. I mean, really the only big-time injury is obviously that goes to Ty Montgomery, who was officially ruled out for the rest of the year now. So he will be donezo for the rest of this year. But pretty much every single key player was out there at practice. Got Christian Barmore, who's been back, Kyle Duggar, who's been back. So those two have been back lately here. So to get those two back in the defense is going to be a very promising here. Of course, you'll need them going against this Jets team. So that was a good sign of things to come. And the Patriots did make a minor move in releasing little Jordan Humphreys. So he is officially off the roster now, as he was released previously before, but was picked immediately right back up and put on the practice squad. So we'll see if maybe that happens here again for Humphreys, but nonetheless, nothing major here as they get ready to take on the Jets. And the Boston Celtics are in action tonight as they are down in Atlanta to take on the Hawks. And Jason Tatum and the Celtics have absolutely been rolling as they are 11-3 to start the season, as they have ripped off, 7 in a row. So they are atop the Eastern Conference. They are the number one seed at 11-3, and things are just clicking pretty much here for the Boston Celtics, although tonight they are without Marcus Smart and Malcolm Brogdon again. So those two are dealing with some injuries here. So we will see how that's going to affect Boston here tonight. But still, the Atlanta Hawks are a decent team as they ended up getting Javonte Williams in the offseason. So they paired him up with Trae Young. So that's a nice scoring duo. And Javonte brings in some defensive prowess to this as well. So it's not a pushover Hawk squad here, but it's another great opportunity for the Celtics to go down and extend that into a 8-game winning streak if they can hold on here tonight and beat Atlanta. And their garden mates, the Boston Bruins, are off to, believe it or not, an even better start as they are 14-2 to start the season. And the Boston Bruins are on a 4-game win streak of their own, a smaller win streak of themselves. So they are the best team in hockey record-wise, and they look like they're playing like it because after them, it's a old friend as far as in the coach and Bruce Cassidy's Vegas Golden Knights are the second best team. They're the best in the West. Well, the Bruins are the best in the East, followed right behind by the New Jersey Devils. But the Bruins are just absolutely putting it to everybody out there. They already have 28 points on the season after 16 games played. They just are rolling on all cylinders here. And Charlie McAvoy, obviously he came back last week and scored in his first opportunity. And of course, they got there. It looks like as though they're going to get Jeremy Swayman back. So pretty much, if you're an injured Bruin and they put a timetable out of like 8 weeks, you can cut that in half because this year they are drinking that magic drink that Bugs Bunny had in Space Jam, the magic stuff or the right stuff, whatever it was called on that bottle that he had. But basically, whatever the trainers are doing down there in the garden is absolutely working because they are cooking. We'll get into both of those winter sports teams here in just a little bit. And in Red Sox news, in no surprise, Xander Bogaerts has declined his option. The qualifying offer, excuse me, from the Boston Red Sox. And I wasn't surprised because I was a little mildly surprised that he didn't take it from the standpoint that he's older, but from the standpoint that he's been healthy the last couple of years and he showed that he is a big time pitcher, although in the big spots, and he's very reliable during the regular season. Nathan Eovaldi has declined his option as well. So the Red Sox have not made any major moves at all. They've just made a few roster spots here for their big league club in the 30-man roster, but they really haven't done anything to this point as free agency started last Thursday. So we're about a week into free agency. Of course, none of the big movers and shakers and big puzzle and big chess pieces have come off the board yet. Obviously, Aaron Judge, Xander Bogaerts, for example, Carlos Correa, Jacob deGrom, any of the big fish that are out there, Wilson Contreras, they're still obviously none of them have even come close to inking a deal. There have been a few trades today. Teoscar Hernandez, was traded from the Toronto Blue Jays to the Seattle Mariners. So that should be a nice middle of the order there with Julio Rodriguez and Hernandez out there. And I'm sure they're still going to be trying to make some moves. But nonetheless, the Red Sox have been quiet on that front. So hopefully that turns around here. We'll get into a little bit of the Red Sox offseason here as well. But we will jump right into the New England Patriots, who are about ready to come off the bye, as today was their first day of practice. And again, we are getting ready for game number 2 against the Jets as the Patriots sit at 5-4. And because of a loss to the Minnesota Vikings, which obviously the Vikings are they're no pushover themselves, as they are right there with the Philadelphia Eagles, as they are 8-1 on the season. So Buffalo, obviously, it was going to be a tough game for Buffalo either way, but this was a game where obviously Buffalo needed it to stay ahead in not just the AFC, but in the AFC East, because Miami is a surprising 7-3 at this point of the season. Excuse me, I have 7-2. Let me just take a look here. 7-3, yes, 7-3. So the Dolphins are 7-3, the Jets are 6-3, and the Bills are 6-3. But the point being here is that the Patriots are 5-4, and because of the way things unfolded last weekend, the Patriots are the 7th seed the seventh and final seed in the playoff race in the AFC, followed right behind by the Chargers, Bengals, and if you want to throw them in there, the Indianapolis Colts. But I mean, I even though they won last week and with Jeff Saturday in his first game back, I'm not going to throw the Colts into this playoff conversation. But right now, for the seventh seed, it's going to be the Patriots, Chargers, and Bengals, in my opinion. So those are who's going to jockey. I mean, at least as it looks right now. I don't trust the Jets. We're going to talk about them here shortly, but so it's really, to me, it's a 4-team race. It's the Jets, Patriots, Chargers, and Bengals, at least for one of the wild card spots, because then it's because Miami and Buffalo are going to be, you can put them down in definitely in pen as far as playoff teams. They're both going to make it, in my opinion, unless Miami has an utter collapse. But it's just going to be, will Buffalo get off the mat and take the division back? I'll have to see. If I believe Buffalo still has one more game against Miami. New England obviously still hasn't faced Buffalo yet. They will December 1st. It's a Thursday night game. So we will see how that one unfolds. But as it stands right now, the Patriots are in the playoffs if it were to start today, which obviously it doesn't. They have a lot to work on, but things have unfolded in their favor here. And of course, that losing to the Bears really hurt them, because right now they could be 6-3 and be right there with the Bills and the Jets in this. And actually, they would, if they had just beaten the Chicago Bears, the Patriots would be the 5 seed. Yeah. Because if you're looking at it here, because the Patriots would have the tiebreaker over the Jets, the Bills are 0-2 in the division. The Patriots are 1-1. So, right. So by tiebreakers, the Patriots would be the top wild card team. That would be crazy. Very crazy. And obviously, we'll see how this all shakes out here this weekend, because there's still a long, long way to go, of course, for this to unfold. But like I said, it's good news here for the Patriots, just because they defensively, they're playing very solid defensively as they headed into the bye. They, special teams wise, Nick Folk is nails. Return game, you've started to get some good returns out of Marcus Jones. The only thing with special teams has been a once all-pro punter in Jake Bailey has looked very human in this go around this year. So now this kind of all falls back onto the offense as far as what is going to happen going into the second half of this season for the Patriots, because let's face it, this the defense can only carry them so far. They're going to have to have an offense that can at least take advantage of those short field situations, because that's been something that's been so frustrating, because we saw that in the Jets game where they settled for a bunch of field goals. We saw that against Indianapolis, against the team that they were on their last leg, because they ended up firing Frank Reich, their head coach. So we saw that, but man, it was frustrating. It's been frustrating watching this offense, because Mac has it in him, or at least we saw it last year. So you believe that he still has to have that in him as far as being a talented, young, smart quarterback. But they just haven't been able to get punch it in the red zone, because even against some of these teams, because you look at it going back to even the Detroit game at home, even though you'd look at that score and be like, oh, they manhandled Detroit. It was 29-0. They blew them out. But they had plenty of, that should have been like a 45-0 game. And this Indy game should have at least been 38 points on the board. They should have had at least 3 or 4 touchdowns, plus those field goals. So they've gotten in the Jets game, the first Jets game, They had plenty of opportunities short in the red zone because of 3 turnovers from Zach Wilson. But the Patriots just have an aversion to scoring touchdowns when they are given short opportunities. Now, this is no fault to guys like Ramondre Stevenson, who has done his part, but still, the offense just we're into week 10 or week 11, really, is what we're at because of the bye week. But we're into week number 11 for the Patriots, and it's already it's way too late in the season to kind of feel like, all right, they're still searching for an identity. You have 7 more games left on the schedule. You face the Jets, the Vikings, the Bills, the Cardinals. All right, eight more games. My apologies. So you have 8 more games left, and this is the point where you were hoping they had figured it out, because you have to face a good Jets team. Although we've seen, because Zach Wilson always seems to melt down against the Patriots, throws multiple picks. Then you have to face the Vikings, who we know they have weapons across the board, with Justin Jefferson, and in my opinion, is the best receiver in the league. You got Buffalo. We all know Buffalo is looking for that berth in the Super Bowl. They're on a mission. Arizona is one of those. It's the Arizona and the Raiders were 2 to start the year that you thought could be very competitive and were going to be tough. The Raiders at this point, yes, they have all that talent, but they just have been so disappointing this year. They are 3-6, 3-7. They're bad. The Cardinals are so inconsistent, although the running quarterback does kind of worry me there. Then you got the Bengals, the Dolphins again, and then the Bills again to close out the year. So this is going to be a very, very, very tough schedule here for the Patriots. So you have to take this game against the Jets, because now you're going to have to play that numbers game of, all right, where are these wins going to come from? Because at this point, because we just talked about the Patriots being the 7th seed, you're right there with the Chargers, you're right there with the Bengals. And obviously with Buffalo and the Jets are the other wild card teams. But the point here is that now that you're in a position for the playoffs, it's right now, I think it's like a 30 some odd % chance that they make the playoffs, like 39% chance to make the playoffs. But and if they win this weekend, then it moves up to a 54% chance at 6-4. But what is just concerning here is that obviously they do have to face the Bengals, so they have a head-to-head matchup there. So there's a tiebreaker that you have to worry about. So you have to look and see where are these wins going to come from. So you're going to have to take one here from the Jets. You're going to, in my opinion, you're going to have to beat the Cardinals and the Raiders. Those are the 2 on the schedule you look at. Yes, I know the Raiders have a lot of talent, and they have Josh McDaniels, and ex-coaches do really well. But this is where I think you're going to have to take those 2 games against the Cardinals and the Raiders and the Jets. So there's 3 right there that gets you to 9. Minnesota, for me, there's 2 games that I'm circling, and they're actually kind of all, and one of them is right after this. One of them is a couple weeks after this Jets game, because Minnesota, I know people obviously make fun of Kirk Cousins for his prime. He doesn't perform well in prime time, because remember, after this week, the Patriots have a short week because they're the Thursday night game. Well, it's Thanksgiving Day. So the Patriots are the nightcap on Thanksgiving next week. Then it's another Well, actually, it's not a short week because it's a full 7 days, but they're the Thursday night game in week 13 when they face the Bills. So for me, the games that I'm circling, because if I'm putting the Jets game, the Raiders and the Bengals, I'm sorry, the Jets, the Cardinals and the Raiders as the games that you have to win, where do you find that 10th? Because it's gonna be tough, but I think for me, it's you have to take one of those Bills games. You have to split with the Bills. You have to. You really have to take one of. You have to go 1-1 against the Bills. You can't afford to get swept because then that puts you in a bad spot as far as in the division, and then obviously if depending on that wild card spot because you've already lost to Miami, and if you lose both to Buffalo, then you're not SOL, but that puts you in a real tough spot because this AFC East is all jockeying for position in all four of them right now are in the playoffs. But for me, you have to take it's the Bills that I'm circling, and it's that game at home against Miami in week 17. Because this is where you have to again you have to split in this division. So if you can take that home game, if you can take your two home games against your division rivals, then that's where I'll be satisfied. Now, obviously, if you flip flop it, you lose at home to the Bills and then you win on the road against the Bills. I'm fine with that too, but because maybe you get lucky where the Bills have kind of gotten back on track and they don't need a lot at the end of the year. But I doubt that's going to be the case because they're probably going to be fighting for a playoff for home. Maybe they pick themselves up after that loss to Minnesota, and then you have to. And they're looking for an end of the season win. Maybe they're jockeying for that number one seed with the Chiefs at this point. Maybe that's happening, or maybe they're even jockeying with Miami with how surprising they have been. So, but for me, it's the Bills and the Dolphins game, and I guess you can throw and you got to throw that Bengals game in there as well. So though, I with me, if Jamar Chase is still out by then I think you might have more of a legitimate shot defensively to hold them down. But if you have Jamar Chase in there, he's just an absolute stud. You have him and T. Higgins. And you got Joe Mixon. They got a lot of weapons that you have to contend with. So for me, it's you're in position here going down the second half to steal one of those wild card spots, get into the playoffs, and then see what happens there. Now, I'm just worried about what's going to happen offensively here, just because I know everybody wants the miracle to happen. They're just hoping that somehow magically coming out of the break that they're going to find something in their back pocket, like a lost $100 bill that somebody put through the wash, and like, hey, I have a nice I have a nice clean $100 bill here that I can go spend. I think that's what people are looking for, is just that lost and found that found money, basically, as far as with the Patriots in the offense. I think they can make improvements coming out of the bye. As far as I don't think we're going to see a brand new offense, but I just like I talked about in last week's show, you have to go back to maybe simplifying things even a little bit more. I know you want to give Mac more complicated plays, and I'd like to see him do that, but to get his confidence back, why don't you throw out some of those or why don't you use some of those plays that Bailey Zappi was using, where they were just some simplified version of the plays. You put those out there, you get some quick timing routes, some quick slants, some quick posts, some screenplays. You get and obviously you mix in play action which Mac does really well. So to me, it's just getting Mac comfortable again, getting him back to where you can feel comfortable, where he's not looking over his shoulder, at least where it feels like it. I mean, behind closed doors, whatever happens, but I'm just talking about on the field at this, when he's out there, where you're not like, okay, he's a little gun shy, or maybe he didn't make that pass because he didn't want to have another pick. But to me, that's what you have to do, and it's a good test here against the Jets to kind of implement that because I like I like what the Jets have as far as in their weapons and Garrett Wilson. Elijah Moore, for some reason, hasn't been used as much this year. Brees Hall, before he got hurt, was really good. So they have some interest. They have some intriguing young weapons, but it's not as high powered as obviously we're going to see with the Bills. We're going to see with the Bengals if they have Joe Mixon back, or even without him, they're still pretty good. And then you obviously Minnesota. So in Miami. So you have a lot of these top tier offenses that maybe at least up against the Jets. If you see what you have coming out of the bye, then this is where you kind of it's going to be tough because you should have figured things out in the first half of the season. You should have figured out who you are, what you can do, but it still feels like they're just trying to find that. And that's why I'm saying maybe you simplify, get back to some of the basics on this. You come out, get the confidence back. So by the time December rolls around, when you have that Thursday night game against the Buffalo Bills, then maybe you have a little bit of confidence in back in the bank from the last couple of weeks where you can go in and you can play confident against Buffalo, try to get that split against Buffalo, and then obviously build the confidence, do this all on the fly. It's going to be really tough, but you got to try to do this on the fly as far as because these are going to be some really tough testing grounds here. And I mean, because games against the Bengals, games against the Bills, games against the Vikings, unless they pull a primetime game where they just crap the bed, you're gonna have to keep up. You're gonna have to chuck the ball down the field. You're gonna have to put points on the board. You can't just settle for field goals all the time. So this is where I'm really worried because, like I said, defensively, they're going to be put to the test as well. But I have a lot more confidence in the defense as far as with Matthew Judon, who's playing out of his mind, playing like the defensive player of the year. You have Dietrich Wise, who's really come into his own this year. Then obviously Josh Uche had a really good game right before the break. The rookies in Jack Jones has been very, very good. He's been an awesome find. So Jalen Mills, the safeties out there with Duggar and Adrian Phillips. I like the secondary. Now, obviously, I think in the offseason, maybe that's you add maybe another good corner to this group, but I think they found something really good in Jack Jones that I think he's a legitimate starting corner in this league. And now obviously moving forward, you see what you have and develop him and see if maybe you can get him up into the next couple echelons. But you found something in Jack Jones. There's still a lot to be worked on, but you found something there. I like what you got going defensively, but to me, this is all going to come down to after this defense is able to make those stops, make some timely stops, which they have proven they can do. Like they kept doing that game against the Packers. And I know this year it's not the same Green Bay team that we've seen before. This is not the juggernaut Packers, but it was still Aaron Rodgers, who he's still the back-to-back MVP. So it's just a lack of trusted weapons. For me, that's why he's not performing as well. So you held Aaron Rodgers down for a majority of that game. So it's in there. It's just, is the offense going to be able to complement them enough, punch the ball into the end zone when you get short field opportunities? That's what I need to see coming into this Jets week. And again, the Jets are a good team, and I can't believe I'm saying that because this is not the Jets team that I grew up watching, at least for most of my life, except for 2009 and 2010, and that 2018 that had Brett Favre, and before he went and did things behind the scenes, showing things he shouldn't show on text messages. And but anyways, the Jets have just been historically bad, but again, they finally seem like they're hitting on draft picks. Maybe not their quarterback pick. I mean, trust me, they'll be just enough where it shows flashes, and then you come back down to earth and you're like, yeah, that's the Zach Wilson I know. I mean, he hasn't been as bad this year as he has been in the past against the rest of the league, but the one thing that has been consistent is Zach Wilson just absolutely throws up all over himself against the Patriots, because remember back 2 weeks ago, not 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when they played the Jets, Zach Wilson in that second half just threw up all over himself and threw 3 picks, 2 to Devin McCourty. So for me, I can't take the Jets seriously when your quarterback is Zach Wilson. I'm fine. Go out and MILF hunt all you want there, Zach. I know that's your favorite thing to do is go hang out with the hot moms out there, but you go do you. But man, I just there's just watching Zach Wilson. I don't know how Jets fans do it. I know they've got a lot of practice over the years. They're right there with the Browns as far as being inept at finding quarterbacks, but my God, it's I'm sorry. I just can't take him seriously. I know Garrett Wilson. He's the guy that I really wanted. I mean, I wanted Chris Olave over him out of Ohio State, but Garrett Wilson's a stud, is a young stud. He's very good. He had a really good game against the Patriots, had over 100 yards receiving, but the Patriots held him out of the end zone. But they don't have Breece Hall, but they still have Elijah Moore. They have Corey Davis. So they have some good weapons surrounding Garrett Wilson, and they have some good weapons surrounding Zach Wilson. But in the defense with Quinnen Williams, very good. Sauce Gardner looks like he's going to be the defensive rookie of the year, and he's going to be a nightmare for years to come. I don't know if it's Darrelle Revis 2.0, but they sure as hell found themselves a really good young corner in the draft. No surprise there. That was kind of the guy that I was hoping the Patriots could get, but I knew that wasn't going to happen. But but I'm sorry. I know I've repeated myself, but it's Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's at quarterback. When he can just pee down his leg at any given moment in this game and cost you, I think the Jets are in for some regression in this second half, not just against the Patriots, but in the second half. I mean, and there's just too many other good teams that are right behind them. You got the Bengals, at the Chargers, and obviously you got the Bills that are behind them as far as in the wild card spot. The Jets are the 5 seed, the Bills are the 6th, and the Patriots are the 7th. But man, because the Bills the Jets have to play the Bills one more time as well. So it's just going to be interesting to see how this all goes here for the Patriots going down the stretch here, and seeing what they can do. And it all starts this weekend. So I think they're going to be able to steal a win here again, not steal a win, but they're going to be able to get a win against the Jets, because I just see the same old story happening here with Zach Wilson as far as just giving the ball away time and time again. And the Patriots, because Belichick is in his head, he's going to be able to rattle him here once again. And I think this is where the Patriots take a 24-13 win over the Jets. So they get that 11-point victory at home against their rival Jets. Now, as we mentioned, we have both tenants of the Boston Garden, the Boston Celtics and Boston Bruins, have both been on hot rolls here as the Bruins are 14-2, Celtics are 11-3. Both of them sit atop the overall standings in both respective leagues, not just like the Eastern Conference in both leagues, but in the NBA, the Celtics have the best record at this point in time. Well, the Bruins do as well. Let me just double check so I'm not putting my foot in my mouth here, because I did check earlier. Yeah, the Celtics do at 11-3. They're the best team in all of the NBA, which are living up to the Vegas odds there, as well as they were picked to have 55 wins on the year by Vegas. So that is no surprise there for the Celtics. And again, the Boston Bruins are 14-2, that's more of a surprise. That definitely is a surprise. The Boston Bruins were a team that I picked to be like probably no higher than a 6 seed going into this year. So this is a complete shock. So if you were to ask me which one of these teams it's going to be more likely that this success is going to continue, I'm obviously going to go with the Boston Celtics just from the standpoint that this is a younger team led by a 24-year-old Jason Tatum and a 26-year-old Jaylen Brown. And obviously they do have veteran players with Al Horford, Malcolm Brogdon after he comes back from his injuries. You have Derek White. So you have veterans that are there, but still at the same time, the core of this team is still very young. Even Marcus Smart, what's he, 28 years old, 28, 29. So they're still a very young core. Again, a team that went to the NBA Finals just last year, lost out. So they're on a mission. So if you were to ask me which one of these I believe this success is going to continue all season long, if you made me pick one, I would have to go with the Boston Celtics. Now, as big of a surprise as the Boston Bruins have been all season long, and I know I just picked the Celtics to at least keep up this type of run, or at least if this is going to continue, it's going to be them. That's just more of a, you made me, if I made myself pick one, but honestly, the Boston Bruins, they're getting healthy again. They've gotten all their stars back as far as Marchand and McAvoy a lot sooner than we thought, a hell of a lot sooner than we thought. We thought that they might not be back until after Christmas or after the new year, but they're back. They both made huge impacts already. You got Jeremy Swayman back, and Linus Ullmark is playing out of his mind at this point. So, but the scary thing is, it's not like one player is like having this all-time Wayne Gretzky-esque out of nowhere type of seasons as far as putting up Gretzky type of numbers or something, or this is like out of the blue. We're seeing the top level production that we're used to seeing from Pasta, because we all know how good David Pastrnak is. He's one of the best goal scorers in the league. And obviously Bergeron, even though this is his 19th season in the NHL, it's still, I mean, he's still playing very well, but it's not like he's on pace to score 60 goals or something crazy. He's putting up Patrice Bergeron like numbers and shifts out there. And the same goes for Marchand now that he's back from injury. So we're not seeing guys that are just playing way over their skis here. We're seeing them play to the, I think what the difference, well, we'll get to one other difference here, but I think with the first off, yes, I know they're not playing over their skis, but they're playing to the top of the potential of each of these or at least most of them. They're playing to the top tier of their potential for most of these guys. They're not, like I said, it's not like they're all of a sudden just found like this fifth, like a fifth gear, and they're way above it. It's just that they're doing what they're supposed to do to the top tier. It's not like in the past where you've gotten some underperformances. They're doing what they're supposed to. And the other part of this that you can't ignore is with Jim Montgomery. And Jim Montgomery has just brought a different type of energy, in which I still love Bruce Cassidy. He was still a very, very good coach. I mean, I still would have been happy if he never going to let go. I still would have loved to have had Cassidy here, but still there is something different he has that Montgomery has brought to this team. He's brought a different kind of, I guess, not because because Cassidy was a different type of energy than Claude Julien was, because Julien was more buttoned down, and I think Cassidy was less buttoned down from the standpoint of letting his guys go out there and do a lot, but I still think he was a little bit kind of in behind the scenes in the locker room, was a little more tight-lipped from that situation. So I think this is where Montgomery's got the best of both worlds for these players, where he's got a wide open offensive system here, allowing guys like Pasternak and Marchand, Coyle, even their defensemen to score, get to be involved. And then also he's more open-minded not open-minded, but he's more kind of free as far as in that locker room, as far as, at least that's what you can tell. Now, obviously, it's not to the point where the inmates are on the asylum or anything like that, but he's given them enough room that they, at least to kind of be themselves, be out there, go out there and have fun. But he knows at the end of the day, it's about winning. So that's kind of bred a really good relationship, at least to start this year, to start the almost, we're almost at the first quarter of the season here for the Bruins, but they've really taken off. And I think one part has to do with Jim Montgomery. And then secondarily, another reason why I think this is sustainable is that I don't think the Bruins, even with Cassidy, who I think he'd let his offensive players will have a lot of free reign, but this is a new system. This is more wide open offensively, because this is where Montgomery takes more chances with his defensemen on the offensive zone. Now, obviously, there have been times where he's gotten burned with it, and he'll get burned again with it. Just maybe because they're not back in time back in their own zone. But it's been so refreshing to kind of see guys like McAvoy and Hampus Lindholm, who looks like he's on an absolute mission this year. He's been a stud. McAvoy, now that he's back and healthy, you have two of your big guns, because the first game that McAvoy came back in, got a goal and an assist. So he scored right away. Hampus Lindholm has been amazing this year. You're seeing more offense out of him. And I know, obviously, we only got a month out of him, out of Lindholm, as far as regular season plus playoffs. But you're seeing a lot more out of him. It looks like, and I know they signed him to a long-term deal, but that even looks like a steal at this point, because you're going to have two stud young defensemen for a long time on both the first and second lines, or if you put them both on that first defensive pairing. But they and even the rest of their Bruins defensive core, the rest of the blue line, they're contributing offensively, and that's what I like as well. So it's a whole team effort here, where it's just not relying on one guy, where this is just going to cool off. So this is a situation where I really, even though, like I said, that I think the Celtics are the ones that are that eventually could go farther, this Bruins team, I think they're right there with the Celtics, because this is something that can be sustainable as well. I hate having to pick against them, but that was kind of the exercise here. But I think in reality, though, I think both of these teams are here to stay for at least for the remainder of this season. So this going to be a very, very fun and entertaining winter around here, as far as if you follow the Celtics or you follow the Bruins, or if you follow both. But it's going to be fun, and there's going to be a rough stretch coming up here for the Bruins here right after Thanksgiving and into Christmas and New Year's. But that's going to be where the metal hits the road there, and see what they're made out of, as far as the Bruins, and see if they are really, really the elite of the elite, because they're going to get multiple games against the Lightning and the Panthers, Maple Leafs, and it's the cream of the crop there in the Devils. So we'll see how this all kind of unfolds here for the Boston Bruins and the Boston Celtics. But it's going to be a good time to be a Boston sports fan, at least a winter sports fan here. And if the Patriots can can look strong down the stretch, then man, it's going to be so fun, and it's going to be a really entertaining podcast here for you guys as we move down the stretch. Now, of course, as we do every week, we like to bring you the one big bet of the week. And this is not sponsored by anybody at this point in time, but maybe we could make some friends over there with DraftKings, because remember, here in the state of Maine, if you guys are listening, it has been legalized to bet. It has been. It's just we're waiting on all the rules and regulations to finally be amended and passed over, so that this can all be official, and so that eventually I don't have to drive the 10 minutes over to New Hampshire and bet again and keep betting. So, but DraftKings is one of my favorites here. Obviously, they are the partner over in New Hampshire. So if maybe DraftKings would like to be a sponsor of this segment, I would not be opposed. Not at all, not one bit. But we are going to go back to the well this week as far as the Minnesota Vikings, as they are home to face the Dallas Cowboys, who just had a shocking, I don't know if it's shocking, but they had a hard pill to swallow there, as even though it was Aaron Rodgers, it's not the same Green Bay Packers. The Cowboys are coming off a loss to Green Bay in overtime, and they are going to be the favorites on the road. It's only a 1.5 point spread. So this is, it's basically it's a pick 'em at this point. It's barely a pick 'em. This is almost a wash, but they are this very, very narrow favorites as they are on the road against the Vikings. But again, like I said, you should listen there, because I said I'm going back to the well on this one this week, and I am going to take the slight underdog in the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going to take they're a plus 100 on DraftKings. So I am going to take the Vikings plus 100 and the over in this game of 47.5 as it stands right now. And of course, got to look at some of those prop bets when they come out. I mean, if you want to throw in like a Justin Jefferson touchdown, or maybe you're feeling good about a not Adam Thielen. I'm thinking about TJ Hawkinson. If you're feeling good about a TJ Hawkinson touchdown this week, get his first or get his second as a Viking, that might be a good one to parlay as well. But I like this one because you're getting good odds here for the Vikings being at this moment, being the underdog as it stands, being the slight home dog to the Cowboys. So you can make some good cash on that. If you just take the money line plus the over, that gives you 275 plus 275, and you throw down 20, you come away with $75. So that's a nice little win there. You increase it's not a huge win, but and that's just with money line and the over. You throw in some other parlays in there, and man, you could be sitting pretty. But I do like this one. There are a few other games. It's not the best slate this weekend. I actually don't mind tomorrow night's Thursday night game here, as the Tennessee Titans go on to play the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau. Now, obviously, the Packers are going to be the home favorite. They just came off a big win against the Dallas Cowboys, as we just talked about. But it's only a 3.5 point spread. And Tennessee is slowly turned things around. So I actually don't mind taking Tennessee in this one. They're a plus 145 on the money line as far as that underdog. So I wouldn't mind taking that plus 145. I want to kind of go in the under in this situation, but it's only 41 points. So the likelihood of that kind of staying there, because that's a low under. And I know this year there's been a lot of unders that have hit, but it's just it's tough when it's sitting at 41.5. And Rodgers looks like he might have got a little bit of chemistry with Christian Watson. So I'm not going to go full bore into taking that under. If anything, I'll take that. If anything, I'll just take the over at 41 and a half at 41, because I think Green Bay can get 20, at least 20, and Tennessee can at least get 20 themselves here. I can see that, the way that Tennessee's starting to play. So in this one, oh boy, I'm going to take. I'm going to take the Tennessee. Give me the Tennessee Titans. Okay, no, I'm gonna see this before the show. I took the Tennessee Titans, but in this one, I actually do like the Packers in this one, since they're at home just slightly. I'll take the Green Bay Packers and the over, and give me, because AJ Dillon hasn't scored in a while, so give me a AJ Dillon touchdown with the same game parlay, and you're looking at odds of plus 425. So throw down a quick $20 and you get a return of $105 on this one. So that's a good one to look at as well. Other than that, there's not a lot on here that I'm like really gung ho about. Maybe you take the Bears over the Falcons. That's an interesting one. The Bears have been, even though they've lost a couple games here, they're kind of entertaining now, at least an entertaining loser, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But there's really nothing else that's kind of like calling my name on this on the schedule here. So those are really the two this week that you might want to look at. Of course, in the Patriots, I'll probably bet on that game as well this weekend. But the one big bet here, the one that I'm going to put my rubber stamp on, is going to be that Minnesota Vikings and Dallas Cowboys game in Minnesota, taking the Vikings plus 105, and on the over at 47.5 points. So if you put a nice little bit of cash on that, maybe the Vikings might reward you again this coming weekend. We'll see how that all rolls here for you this weekend. And of course, as we like to always do, finish things out here with a little bit of fantasy advice. And this week, I am going to try to give you maybe just some hidden gems here, or try to get some of those guys off waiver wires, because we're getting to that point where you might be dealing with some injuries, you might be dealing with some buys, you might be looking to have a guy fill in, dealing with some other issues there. You just maybe haven't been able to fill that wide receiver 3 hole, or if you only have 2 wide receivers, maybe trying to fill that flex. It might be a tough situation for you. You might be in a deeper league. But of course, my first ad of this whole situation, I am definitely gonna if you have an opportunity to get him, and that would be Christian Watson of the Green Bay Packers. He absolutely went off last week. Christian Watson hauled in. Excuse me, my apologies, folks. Had a little too much garlic there for dinner, but Christian Watson had 4 catches for 107 yards and 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns, folks. So he put up 34 points, and in PPR formats, he was an absolute stud. So Christian Watson is my number one ad that you still have some fob left, some free agent cash to go out there and spend it on Christian Watson. Obviously, it's still going to be a little bit of a dart throw, because this is his breakout game here, and he had a little bit of woes earlier. He's been dealing with some injuries, but remember, Romeo Dobbs has been dealing with some injuries. He's still going to be out for probably another 2 weeks or so, maybe not 3, maybe 3 more, depending. But that's an ad that I think could pay off for you here if you're the if you're a fantasy manager and you're looking for that other ad here as well. And as far as in the as far as if you're kind of looking for maybe another kind of deep ad and you're really scratching and clawing here, maybe you look at a Terrence Marshall with the Carolina Panthers. He has put up some solid performances here, although against Atlanta, he did put up a little bit of a clunker there with one catch for 43 yards. But if he sees a few more targets, this is a guy that's had 12 to 14 points. So he's a guy that's kind of taken up a little bit of the secondary wide receiver role there now that Robbie Anderson is gone. So he's taken some of those vacated spots there in the offense. And as far as on the running back front, now this is kind of where everything gets a little kind of murky here, because this is where there haven't been a ton of great opportunities that have kind of risen out of there. But if you're desperate and you're really searching, I am a fan of Rachaad White of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because it looks as though Leonard Fournette still dealing with some injuries. He still hasn't come back to form yet. And I know Rachaad White is on a bye this week, but this is a guy that came in with Leonard Fournette hurt. He had 22 carries for 105 yards. He had 30 return yards. So this is a guy that put up 13 points last week, didn't get a touchdown, but it put up 105 yards. So he got you some decent points there. So this is a guy that they drafted him, in the 4th round, 3rd round. They saw something out of him. So he's not a late round kind of dart throw. This is a guy that's had some talent. So he could be a guy that if you're looking to kind of fill that void, maybe you go with Rachaad White. And again, even if Leonard Fournette comes back, he's been underwhelming this, at least in my opinion, he's been underwhelming this year. Yes, he'll get some check downs and he is the guy that they go to at the goal line, but a lot of it's going to be volume. I know obviously a lot of running backs are going to be volume based, but I mean, he's one of it's like he and Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, Zeke has become really volume based, and not as many touchdowns. But Leonard Fournette, you're really hoping for that touchdown, and they just absolutely feed him. But he hasn't had a lot of those breakaway plays. He hasn't had and he really even hasn't had a ton of checkdowns either. So when he's been out there and been healthy. So even when he comes back and he's healthy, you might start to see some more Rachaad White out on the field. So this could be a good pickup to have and kind of stash on your bench if you're kind of looking around, scrounging around for running backs out there. But that is your fantasy advice this week, and hopefully that helps you out there, helps you win a week or two out there, and maybe get you back into that playoff race or advances you into that seeding with just one of those pickups there. Just let me know, tweet at me and let me know. And speaking of that, as we wrap up the show, as always, remember you can catch us next week at Wednesday at 8:00 for the live stream. Next week we will break down this Patriots Jets game coming up, and of course we will break down and preview the game again, the Thanksgiving night game with the Minnesota Vikings. That'll be a really good one to look forward to. Of course, we will keep you up to date on anything with the Boston Red Sox, as far as if there's any free agency signings, any trades, anything in the offseason, if that hot stove, if they actually turn the burner on, or if the Red Sox just kind of leave it cold right now. And then, of course, we will keep you up to date on anything going on with the Boston Celtics and Boston Bruins, and if they are able to continue rolling along here into the wintertime as that goes, and anything else that pops up in the Boston sports scene, we will let you know. Now, of course, you can always, like I said, follow the show every Wednesday night is the live stream of it here read on YouTube. And then you can also, if you can't catch the live stream, you can always go to Spotify or SoundCloud and just search New England Sports Weekly, and you can find the show there. And remember, if it's YouTube or SoundCloud, Spotify, wherever you're following the show. Remember on that platform to hit the like and subscribe to the show. If you're here on YouTube, you can also hit the bell for notifications. And if you're on the live stream, you can always send me a question. I'm always monitoring that. So if you guys want to send a question, do that there as well. And of course, you can always follow the show on the show Twitter account at NE Sports Weekly. And it's also on Instagram. It's NE Sports WK. And follow the show there as well. Send me any questions, any comments, likes, whatever, disappointments, whatever. Send it there as well. And of course, you can follow me on my regular social media, my normal at Sean_Met28 on Instagram and Twitter. It's the same handle there. All right, folks. Well, I hope that you have a good rest of your Wednesday night and a good rest of your week. We'll catch up with you next Wednesday night. Until then, have a good one, folks.